Hi guys, I'm Mitchell Dale, joined by Martin Lenihan, and we're talking about the Four Nations final for Rugby League Week TV. Australia and New Zealand. Now, normally the shoe is on the other foot. We see Australia starting well, Kiwis starting a bit slower, working their way into it. Obviously, that hasn't happened this time. Australia's starting to gather a bit of momentum, but New Zealand they've been flying along since word go.
Flogged them in the first game. I think, as you said, maybe a bit of a surprise to some people, although Australia have had to blood a lot of young players. I've got to say, Mitch, fantastic tournament. A lot of scepticism about it with some of these key guys out. Tim Sheens has really had to go to the well, brought in about 8 or 9 new players. New Zealand have probably pretty much gone as we expected. I think a lot of us were tipping them at the start. Samoa, fantastic surprise the way they've played. And England, again, close, but not quite there, but played brilliantly. I think it's been an awesome tournament.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, just to touch on Samoa for a second, with a few calls going their way, they could easily be playing in the final on Saturday night at Wellington. I mean, they just got pipped by New Zealand, just got pipped by England, scored as many tries as both of them, and then you got the feeling the air was kind of taken out of their sails a little bit by the time they got to Australia last weekend. Now, we've seen both of the sides for the final. What do you make of the New Zealand side? They've lost Thomas Lulawai. Now, interestingly, he was selected ahead of Isaac Luke, or he was preferred to Isaac Luke by Stephen Carney last weekend. So you get the feeling he was almost number one in the pecking order there for the Kiwi Rakes.
It's interesting, isn't it? I'm a huge Isaac Luke fan. He obviously had his problem there at the end of the year with South. I would have thought he'd always be in their starting team, but Kearney made a choice there and it worked for him. I don't think they've got a problem going into the final, though, with Isaac Luke. Watch him at the haka, watch him get pumped up. He can actually go a little bit over the top sometimes, but it gets Lewis Brown onto the bench as well. I don't think that's a drama too much for the Kiwis. They look very solid. I think really their halves have been fantastic. Johnson and Foran up against Cronk and Cherry Evans. I reckon the whole game probably revolves around those four guys. 3 of the best young halves in the comp and Cooper Cronk. So going to be a fantastic battle. But geez, the Kiwis, they're solid. They've pretty much had the same team throughout. Going to be very hard to beat at home, of course.
Yep. And what do you think about the Aussies? I mean, Tim Sheens has named a 7-man bench. So interestingly, Ben Hunt, Josh Jackson, David Clemmer have been named in jerseys 18 to 20. He did a similar thing before the Samoa game and then tweaked it towards the end. Do you expect the likes of Farah, Hoffman and Guerra to play, or do you think it'll be the same 17 that took care of Samoa?
No, look, I think Farah and Hoffman will be there. I think particularly the experience of Ryan Hoffman, great for guys like Clemmer and Josh Jackson to get a crack at it, and they did well. Look, great experience for them. I think a bit more, experience in the final, though, will be crucial. I do expect Robbie Farah to be there. I think Ben Hunt's probably the interesting one. He's given a real lift when he's come in, but you've just got to work out how he fits into the side, I suppose. If he's going to be on the bench, does he get a lot of game time? So, I mean, that's the big question for Sheens. But I think, he'll go with the guys that have been around a bit. I think Ryan Hoffman would be a definite.
Yep. And then you look at, it might be Guerra, it might be David Clemmer. I thought David Clemmer was outstanding. He may well have played himself onto a bench spot there at the expense of Aidan Guerra last weekend.
Oh, he ripped in, didn't he? I think the game against Samoa was always going to be physical, had to be won in the forwards by Australia, and David Clemmer, coming off a great season, he just absolutely tore in. So it's talking about another guy came off a great season, Dylan Walker. Now, he's probably the one bloke out of all these guys that's been given a shot that just hasn't worked for him. I hope he can have a big game in the final. He's definitely good enough, but he must be feeling a bit like he had to go to fullback the first game and fill in. Got caught under a few high balls. Probably a bit of the air gone out of the balloon for poor old Dylan Walker after the highs of the grand final.
Yeah, I've got to say, he hasn't really been given much of a chance to shine either. He hasn't been given great ball in with a lot of time. A lot of it he's been taking the ball behind his back, things like that. The defence has been right on top of him. I still think if he gets a little bit of daylight, we could see some good things from him. Finally, a tip. You've been on the Kiwis the whole time.
Yeah, we got on the bandwagon early, took the $5, if you recall. We spoke about it a fair bit. Look, I think playing at home, really, they've upset Australia in finals before when they haven't been expected to win. I think they probably have to start favourites given the form of the tournament. I think they can get the job done at home. Just expected to be an epic contest, but I think they will get home New Zealand.
Yeah, look, I'll make it interesting and I'll go for the Aussies. I think you're right. I think the Kiwis deserve their favouritism. But look, I just like the way Australia have built progressively throughout the tournament. That's what Tim Sheens said the whole way through. He said they were going to have to start slowly because there were so many new players. So I think they've done that, and I think they can just carry it through into the final on Saturday. Anyway, it's going to be a cracker, the last game of the season. Enjoy it, and we'll be back soon.